Maya Chen sat in the back row of her college physics class, doodling mechanical designs in her notebook margins. To her classmates, she was just another quiet engineering student who kept to herself. They saw her faded clothes, her simple lunch of rice and vegetables, and assumed she came from a poor family. None of them knew that just 5 years ago, she had been operating a plasma cannon defense system while alien ships burned the sky above her hometown. The professor droned on about basic energy principles that Maya had learned to calculate in her head while dodging laser fire. She had mastered these concepts at 15, when survival depended on understanding exactly how much power her jury-rigged weapons could handle before they exploded in her hands. Now at 22, she sat through these elementary lessons because she needed the degree. The world had moved on from the war, and credentials mattered more than experience when it came to getting a job that didn't involve talking about the things she had seen. Her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate asking if she wanted to join a study group. Maya stared at the message, remembering the last group she had been part of. 12 teenagers hiding in the ruins of a subway station, sharing stolen military rations and taking turns on watch duty. Only 3 of them had made it to the end of the war. The others died fighting or starved when supply runs went wrong, or simply gave up when the weight of it all became too much. She typed back a polite refusal and returned to her doodles. The margins of her notebook filled with detailed sketches of weapon modifications and defensive positions. Old habits died hard, even in a classroom where the biggest threat was falling asleep during a lecture. When class ended, Maya packed her things slowly, waiting for the crowd to clear. She had learned to avoid crowds whenever possible. Too many people moving in too many directions triggered memories of evacuation scenarios and ambush tactics. Her therapist called it hypervigilance, but Maya preferred to think of it as staying prepared. The war might be over, but she had seen how quickly peace could shatter. Walking across campus, Maya noticed things her classmates missed. The blind spots created by landscaping where someone could hide, the limited exit points from each building, the fact that the campus emergency alert system relied entirely on cell towers that could be taken down with a well-placed explosive charge. She cataloged these vulnerabilities automatically, the way other students might notice attractive classmates or upcoming parties. At the campus coffee shop, Maya ordered her usual black coffee and found a table with a clear view of all entrances. She pulled out her laptop and opened her engineering homework, but her mind wandered to the news reports she had been following: strange atmospheric disturbances in the outer colonies, communications blackouts lasting longer than they should, trade ships arriving weeks behind schedule with nervous crews who refused to talk about their journeys. The official reports blamed solar flares and equipment failures. Maya had heard similar explanations 5 years ago, right before the first wave of alien ships appeared over Earth's major cities. The government had been slow to acknowledge the threat then, convinced that humanity's first contact with aliens would be peaceful and diplomatic. They had been catastrophically wrong. A group of students at the next table were complaining about their organic chemistry exam. Maya listened to them stress over grades and dating drama and career prospects, problems that seemed impossibly trivial to someone who had spent her teenage years wondering if she would live to see her next birthday. She envied their innocence even as it frustrated her. They lived in a world where the biggest crisis was a failed test or a broken relationship. Maya's laptop chimed with an incoming email from her academic advisor, reminding her about the career fair next week. Representatives from major corporations would be on campus, looking for promising engineering students. Maya had already researched the companies that would be attending. Most of them had defense contracts, though they preferred to advertise their civilian products. She wondered how many of their recruiters had military backgrounds, and whether any of them would recognize the signs of her own combat experience. She closed the laptop and finished her coffee, watching students hurry past the windows with backpacks full of textbooks instead of ammunition. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the quad, and for a moment Maya felt almost normal, almost like the college student she was supposed to be. Then her phone buzzed with a news alert. Another communication blackout in the Tau Ceti system, the 3rd one this month. Maya read the brief report twice, noting the details the journalist had missed or chosen to ignore. The pattern was too consistent to be random equipment failures. Someone was testing response times, mapping communication networks, probing for weaknesses. Maya gathered her things and headed back to her dorm room. She had studying to do, But first she wanted to check the restricted military forums she still had access to through her veterans account. If her suspicions were correct, there might be chatter from active duty personnel who were seeing the same patterns she was. Her roommate was out, probably at the study group Maya had declined to join. The room felt too quiet without the normal sounds of campus life filtering through the windows. Maya sat at her desk and logged into the secure network she had used during the war. The familiar interface brought back memories of midnight intelligence briefings and urgent tactical updates. What she found in the forums made her stomach clench with familiar dread. Active duty soldiers were reporting the same atmospheric disturbances, the same communication problems, the same nervous civilian ships arriving with stories they weren't allowed to tell. The official response was the same as it had been 5 years ago. Stay calm, trust the authorities, assume there was a reasonable explanation for everything. Maya knew better. She had lived through the last time humanity trusted the authorities to handle first contact. She had seen what happened when the government prioritized maintaining public calm, over preparing for the worst-case scenario. She had buried friends who died because no one wanted to, believed that a species capable of interstellar travel might not have peaceful intentions. She closed the laptop and stared out her dorm room window at the peaceful campus below. Students were heading to dinner or evening classes, worried about assignments and relationships and weekend plans. None of them knew what Maya could see in the pattern of recent events. None of them understood that history was about to repeat itself. Maya opened her desk drawer and pulled out a small device she had built during her freshman year. It looked like a standard tablet, but the components inside were military-grade communication equipment she had salvaged and modified. She powered it on and began composing a message to the only other survivors from her old unit who might listen to her concerns. The war was coming back, and this time Maya intended to be ready. 3 days after Maya sent her encrypted messages, the first reply came from Marcus Rodriguez, her former squad leader who now worked as a security consultant in New Geneva. His response was short but confirmed her worst fears. Seeing the same patterns here. Industrial accidents increasing near spaceports. My clients are nervous but won't say why. We need to talk. Maya arranged to meet Marcus during her spring break, telling her roommate she was visiting family. The lie came easily after years of hiding the truth about her past. She took a series of buses and trains to avoid leaving a digital trail, another old habit that her civilian friends would find paranoid, but that kept her alive during the war. Marcus looked older than his 28 years, with gray streaks in his dark hair and lines around his eyes that came from seeing too much too young. They met in a small cafe in the industrial district, far from the tourist areas where government surveillance was heaviest. Maya recognized his choice of seating immediately, back to the wall, clear view of exits, positioned to watch the street through the window. You look good, Marcus said, though his expression suggested he could see through her carefully constructed normal student facade. College treating you well? It's fine, Maya replied, settling into the chair across from him. But that's not why we're here. Marcus nodded and pulled out a secure tablet similar to Maya's own device. I've been tracking the patterns you mentioned. The communication blackouts are spreading. 3 more systems went dark this week, all along the outer rim colonies. The official explanation is solar storm activity, but the timing doesn't match any natural phenomenon. Maya leaned forward, lowering her voice. What about the industrial accidents you mentioned? 17 major incidents in the past month, all at facilities involved in military manufacturing or research. Explosions, contamination events, computer system failures. Each one looks like human error or equipment malfunction, but together they represent a significant degradation of our defense manufacturing capability. The implications hit Maya like a physical blow. During the last war, the aliens had spent months weakening Earth's defenses before revealing themselves. They had infiltrated communication networks, sabotaged production facilities, and eliminated key military personnel through what appeared to be accidents and natural causes. By the time the first ships appeared in Earth's skies, humanity's ability to respond had been severely compromised. How many people are connecting these dots? Maya asked. Not enough, Marcus replied grimly. The military leadership has changed since the war ended. Most of the officers who remember the build-up phase are retired or dead. The new generation hasn't lived through a gradual infiltration campaign. They're looking for obvious threats, not subtle preparation. Maya thought about her classmates, blissfully unaware that their peaceful world might be under attack by an enemy they couldn't see. We need to start preparing people without causing a panic. Marcus showed her files on his tablet containing profiles of other war veterans who had noticed similar patterns. Former soldiers working in various civilian jobs, all reporting unusual incidents in their areas of expertise. A communications engineer seeing strange network traffic, a logistics specialist noticing disruptions in supply chains, a former intelligence analyst tracking suspicious financial transactions. The good news is that we're not alone, Marcus said. The bad news is that we're operating outside official channels. If we're wrong about this, we could face serious legal consequences for unauthorized intelligence gathering. And if we're right and do nothing, millions of people die. Maya replied, I've seen what happens when humanity gets caught off guard. They spent the next several hours planning a covert information network. Each veteran would continue monitoring their specific area while sharing intelligence through encrypted channels. Maya would focus on the atmospheric disturbances since her engineering background helped her analyze the technical data. Marcus would coordinate intelligence from his security industry contacts. When Maya returned to campus, she threw herself into her studies with renewed purpose. Her professors noticed her sudden interest in advanced physics and communications theory, assuming she had finally found her academic passion. In reality, Maya was learning everything she could about the technologies that might be used in a second alien invasion. She began modifying her dorm room, making subtle changes that her roommate attributed to stress about upcoming exams. Maya installed signal boosters that could also function as jamming devices if necessary. She acquired emergency supplies through careful online purchases spread across multiple accounts. She even built a hidden compartment in her desk, where she stored emergency rations and basic medical supplies. Her social isolation became more pronounced as she devoted most of her free time to monitoring the Veteran Intelligence Network. Her roommate tried to include her in normal college activities, but Maya found it increasingly difficult to pretend interest in parties and social events. How could she care about fraternity drama when she was tracking signs of an impending alien attack? The breakthrough came 3 weeks into the semester, when Maya detected a pattern in the atmospheric disturbances that the official scientists had missed. The interference wasn't random. It was systematically mapping Earth's defensive satellites and communication networks. Someone was conducting detailed reconnaissance of humanity's current military capabilities. Maya's analysis revealed that the scanning pattern was too efficient and comprehensive to be natural phenomena. It showed an understanding of human technology that could only come from previous contact with Earth systems. The aliens hadn't just returned. They had been studying human defenses continuously since the end of the last war. She shared her findings with Marcus, who immediately contacted their network of veteran analysts. Within hours, they had corroborating evidence from multiple sources. Financial experts reported suspicious investments in companies that would benefit from military conflicts. Medical professionals noticed unusual procurement of trauma supplies by hospitals near major population centers. Agricultural specialists documented strange purchasing patterns for long-term food storage. The pattern was clear to anyone who knew what to look for. Earth was being prepared for another war, and this time the aliens were taking no chances. They had spent 5 years studying human recovery capabilities and defensive improvements. They knew exactly where to strike for maximum effect. Maya faced a terrible choice. She could report her findings through official channels and risk being dismissed as a paranoid veteran, seeing threats where none existed. Or she could continue operating in secret, gathering evidence while precious time slipped away. The decision was made for her when Marcus called with urgent news. One of their network contacts, a former intelligence officer working for a defense contractor, had disappeared after reporting unusual activity at a classified research facility. The official explanation was a family emergency, but the man's wife confirmed he had never arrived at his supposed destination. They're starting to clean house, Marcus told Maya during their encrypted call. Anyone who gets too close to the truth is being eliminated or silenced. Maya stared out her dorm room window at students enjoying a beautiful spring day, playing frisbee on the quad and studying under trees. They had no idea that their world was about to change forever. Some of them would survive the coming war, but many would not. The thought of their innocence being shattered the way hers had been filled Maya with a rage that surprised her with its intensity. She had been 15 when the first war started, too young to do more than follow orders and try to stay alive. Now she was an adult with knowledge and skills that could make a difference. This time, humanity wouldn't be caught completely off guard. Maya began making preparations of her own, beyond the simple emergency supplies she had already gathered. She reached out to contacts from her old unit who had skills she would need: a former combat medic now working as a nurse, an explosives expert who had become a construction foreman, a communications specialist running a small electronics repair shop. One by one, Maya began assembling a team of people who remembered what the last war had been like and were willing to prepare for another one. They would operate in secret, gathering intelligence and building capabilities while the official authorities remained blind to the growing threat. The aliens had made one crucial mistake in their planning. They assumed that because humanity had been caught off guard once, it would happen again. They didn't account for the fact that some humans remembered, and that those humans were no longer children hiding in basements. This time, the war would be different. Maya's double life became increasingly complex as spring turned to summer. During the day, she attended classes and maintained her cover as an ordinary engineering student. At night, she coordinated with a growing network of veterans who were quietly preparing for a war that officially didn't exist. Her academic performance actually improved as she applied her real-world experience to theoretical problems. When her thermodynamics professor assigned a project on energy transfer efficiency, Maya designed a cooling system based on modifications she had made to overheating plasma weapons during the siege of Detroit. Her material science coursework benefited from her knowledge of how different alloys performed under extreme stress, information she had learned while repairing damaged equipment with whatever salvaged components she could find. The other students began to notice her unusual insights into practical applications. During a group project on electromagnetic field theory, Maya casually mentioned design flaws that could cause catastrophic failures in high-powered devices. Her teammates were impressed by her thorough understanding of system failure modes, not knowing that she had witnessed such failures when they meant the difference between life and death. Maya's reputation as a serious student caught the attention of Professor Williams, who taught advanced physics and had connections to several defense research programs. He approached her after class one afternoon with an opportunity that made her blood run cold. "Miss Chen, your work this semester has been exceptional," Professor Williams said, his smile friendly but his eyes calculating. "I have contacts at Meridian Dynamics who are looking for promising students for their summer internship program. The work involves advanced atmospheric monitoring systems. I think you would be perfect for the position." Maya knew Meridian Dynamics from her veteran intelligence network. The company had been awarded several large government contracts for developing new detection systems, ostensibly to prevent another surprise attack. But according to Marcus's sources, their research was advancing too quickly and in directions that suggested they had access to alien technology. "That sounds very interesting," Maya replied carefully. "What kind of atmospheric monitoring would I be working on?" "Classified projects, I'm afraid, but I can tell you that it involves detecting unusual energy signatures in the upper atmosphere, the kind of work that could be vital for planetary defense." Maya accepted the internship, knowing it could be either an incredible opportunity to gather intelligence or a trap that would expose her veteran network. She spent the next week preparing for both possibilities, creating backup plans and dead drops that would allow her information to reach Marcus if she disappeared. The Meridian Dynamics facility was located in a converted military base outside the city, surrounded by multiple layers of security that seemed excessive for a civilian research company. Maya's first day began with an extensive background check and security briefing that covered protocols for handling classified information. Her supervisor, Dr. Sarah Park, was a woman in her 40s with the kind of intense focus that Maya recognized from military officers who had seen combat. During their initial meeting, Dr. Park studied Maya with an expression that suggested she saw more than a typical college intern. "Your academic record is impressive," Dr. Park said, reviewing Maya's file, "but you have some gaps in your educational history. The period between 2019 and 2022 shows no formal schooling." Maya had prepared for this question. "My family relocated several times during those years due to my father's work. I was homeschooled and focused on independent study." Dr. Park nodded, but her expression remained skeptical. "Independent study in what subjects?" "Mostly practical engineering and electronics. My father believed in hands-on learning." "I see. Well, you'll find that we value practical experience here at Meridian. The work we do requires people who can think creatively under pressure. Maya was assigned to a team analyzing atmospheric data from a network of high-altitude sensors. The official purpose was to detect natural phenomena that might interfere with satellite communications. But as Maya studied the data patterns, she realized they were looking for something much more specific. The sensors were designed to detect the exact type of energy signatures produced by alien propulsion systems. More disturbing, the detection algorithms were incredibly sophisticated, suggesting they had been developed using detailed knowledge of alien technology. Maya began to suspect that Meridian Dynamics hadn't just been awarded government contracts. They were actively collaborating with alien infiltrators. Working late one evening, Maya discovered files on the company's secure network that confirmed her worst fears. Meridian Dynamics was part of a larger program involving companies and government agencies that had been compromised since the end of the First War. The aliens hadn't left Earth after their defeat. They had gone underground, slowly infiltrating human institutions and preparing for a more successful second invasion. The files revealed the scope of the infiltration: defense contractors developing weapons with built-in vulnerabilities, communication companies installing backdoors in critical infrastructure, research institutions studying human psychology to optimize psychological warfare tactics. Even worse, some humans were willingly collaborating, convinced that cooperation with the aliens would ensure their survival when the invasion began. Maya carefully copied the most damaging files onto encrypted storage devices hidden in her personal belongings. But as she worked, she noticed that someone else was accessing the same network directories. Another user was downloading similar information, someone with high-level clearance who was taking even more sensitive files. Afraid of being discovered, Maya quickly finished her downloads and returned to her assigned work. But she made note of the other users' access patterns, hoping to identify who else might be investigating the conspiracy. The next morning, Maya arrived at work to find the facility in chaos. Dr. Park had been found dead in her office, apparently from a heart attack that occurred while she was working late. Maya felt a chill of recognition. She had seen similar natural deaths during the last war, usually affecting people who had learned too much about alien activities. Dr. Park's replacement was a nervous young man named Dr. Chen, who seemed more interested in following protocols than understanding the research. He immediately implemented new security measures that limited access to the most sensitive data. Maya realized that Dr. Park had probably been the other user downloading files, and her death was meant to prevent her from exposing the conspiracy. During Dr. Park's memorial service, Maya noticed several attendees who didn't seem to belong. They wore the right clothes and said the right things, but their behavior patterns were subtly wrong. They stood too still, scanned the crowd too systematically, and showed no genuine emotion about Dr. Park's death. Maya suspected they were alien infiltrators, possibly the ones responsible for eliminating Dr. Park. That evening, Maya met with Marcus at a secure location to share her discoveries. The scope of the infiltration was far worse than they had imagined. The aliens weren't just planning another invasion, they were already here, embedded in human society and preparing to disable Earth's defenses from within. "We need to warn people," Maya said, "but no one will believe us without proof. And anyone who tries to present proof ends up like Dr. Park," Marcus replied grimly. "We're fighting an enemy that can eliminate threats without revealing itself." They spent hours developing a plan to expose the conspiracy without getting themselves killed. The key was to release information gradually through multiple channels, making it impossible for the aliens to silence everyone at once. Maya would continue her internship at Meridian Dynamics, gathering more evidence while appearing to be a normal student. Marcus would coordinate with their veteran network to identify other compromised organizations. But as they prepared to leave, Maya noticed something that made her heart stop. One of the patrons at a nearby table was the same person she had seen at Dr. Park's memorial service, one of the individuals she suspected of being an alien infiltrator. The being was watching them carefully while pretending to read a newspaper. Maya and Marcus left separately, using different exits and taking indirect routes to their destinations. But Maya couldn't shake the feeling that their secret war against the alien conspiracy had just become much more dangerous. The enemy now knew that some humans were aware of their presence and activities. Over the following days, Maya noticed increased surveillance around her dorm and on campus. Unfamiliar faces appeared in her regular haunts, people who seemed to be monitoring her activities without being obvious about it. She began varying her routines and using countermeasures she had learned during the war, but she knew it was only a matter of time before the aliens decided she was too dangerous to leave alive. The race was on. Maya had to gather enough evidence to expose the conspiracy and alert humanity to the coming invasion, before the aliens eliminated her and everyone else who threatened their plans. But with each passing day, she realized how much more sophisticated and patient this enemy had become. The first war had been brutal but straightforward, aliens attacking from space while humans fought back. From the ground, this war was already underway, invisible and insidious, with humanity unknowingly betrayed by its own institutions. And Maya was one of the few people who could see it happening. Maya's paranoia proved justified when she returned to her dorm room one evening to find subtle signs that someone had searched through her belongings. Her books were in slightly different positions. Her laptop had been moved a fraction of an inch, and the dust pattern on her desk had been disturbed. To a casual observer, nothing would seem amiss, but Maya had learned during the war to notice such details. More concerning, whoever had searched her room was skilled enough to almost avoid detection entirely. This wasn't the work of curious roommates or standard security sweeps. Someone with professional training had been looking for evidence of her activities, and they had been careful not to leave obvious traces. Maya checked her hidden storage compartments and found them undisturbed, but she knew that meant nothing. A truly skilled infiltrator would have photographed everything and left it exactly as they found it. She had to assume that her emergency supplies were now known to the enemy, along with the existence of her encrypted communication devices. That night, Maya initiated emergency protocols she had established with Marcus. She sent a coded message indicating that her cover might be blown and that she needed to accelerate their timeline. Within hours, she received responses from veteran network members across the country, all reporting similar signs of increased surveillance. The aliens were moving faster than expected, possibly because they had detected the veteran intelligence network. Maya realized that their enemy had learned from the First War not just about human military capabilities, but about human resistance patterns. They knew that experienced veterans would be the first to recognize the signs of invasion preparation, and they were taking steps to neutralize that threat. At Meridian Dynamics the next day, Maya noticed increased security throughout the facility. New guards appeared at checkpoints, additional cameras were installed in common areas, and employees were required to submit to more thorough searches when entering secure areas. Dr. Chen announced that these measures were temporary responses to concerns about industrial espionage, but Maya suspected the real purpose was to identify and monitor potential security threats. Maya's access to sensitive files was gradually restricted as her clearance level was reduced without explanation. When she asked about continuing her atmospheric monitoring work, Dr. Chen told her that the project was being restructured and that she would be reassigned to less critical research. Maya recognized the pattern. She was being isolated and contained while the aliens decided how to deal with her. During her lunch break, Maya used a secure phone to contact Professor Williams, hoping to gather more information about how she had been selected for the internship. What she learned chilled her to the bone. Professor Williams revealed that he had been approached by Meridian Dynamics representatives months earlier and asked to recommend students with specific qualifications, high academic achievement, practical engineering experience, and family backgrounds that suggested resilience under pressure. They were very interested in students who might have lived through traumatic experiences, Professor Williams explained. They said such individuals would be better suited for high-stress research environments. Maya realized that the internship hadn't been an opportunity at all. It had been a trap designed to identify and recruit war veterans who were hiding in civilian populations. The aliens were systematically hunting down the humans most likely to recognize their activities and either eliminating them or attempting to turn them into collaborators. That evening, Maya met with Marcus at a new location, a crowded shopping mall where they could blend into the civilian population while conducting counter-surveillance. Marcus had disturbing news from other network members. 3 veterans had disappeared in the past week, all after reporting unusual activities in their areas. Another had been arrested on fabricated charges, while 2 more had been offered lucrative job opportunities that would relocate them to isolated facilities. "They're not just monitoring us," Marcus said. "They're actively disrupting our network. We need to go underground completely or we'll all be eliminated within a month." Maya agreed, but she also recognized an opportunity. If they're this worried about veteran resistance, it means we're having an impact. They're accelerating their timeline because they see us as a real threat. Marcus pulled out a tablet showing intelligence gathered from their remaining network contacts. "The atmospheric disturbances are intensifying. Our analysis suggests the main invasion force will arrive within 6 months, possibly sooner. They're using the infiltration period to disable our defensive capabilities and eliminate potential resistance leaders." Maya studied the data, her engineering background helping her understand the technical implications. The energy signatures are getting stronger because their ships are getting closer. They're not just monitoring our defenses, they're positioning themselves for a coordinated strike on multiple targets simultaneously. They spent the next hour planning a desperate gambit. Maya would return to Meridian Dynamics and attempt to plant evidence that would expose the conspiracy to government investigators who weren't compromised. It was a dangerous plan that would almost certainly result in her death or capture, but it might provide enough warning to save millions of lives. Before parting ways, Marcus gave Maya a small device disguised as a standard university ID card. "If everything goes wrong, activate this. It will broadcast our complete intelligence file to every major news organization and government agency simultaneously. The aliens might control many institutions, but they can't control everyone." Maya returned to her dorm room, knowing it would probably be the last time. She spent the night writing letters she would never send. Messages to her roommate explaining why she had been so distant, apologies to professors for the deception, and a detailed account of everything she had discovered about the alien infiltration. She sealed these documents in a package addressed to a journalist Marcus had identified as trustworthy and arranged for it to be delivered if she didn't check in within 48 hours. The next morning at Meridian Dynamics, Maya volunteered for a special project that Dr. Chen had mentioned in passing, testing new sensor equipment that would be deployed on military satellites. She knew it was likely another trap, but it would give her access to the facility's most secure areas, where she could plant the evidence that might expose the conspiracy. Dr. Chen seemed surprised by her enthusiasm, but approved her for the project. Maya was escorted to a sub-basement level she had never seen before, where the facility's most sensitive research was conducted. The security was overwhelming. Multiple checkpoints, biometric scanners, and guards who moved with military precision. In the main laboratory, Maya saw technology that confirmed her worst fears. The equipment was clearly based on alien designs, far more advanced than anything human science could have developed. But more disturbing were the human technicians working alongside beings that were obviously not human, despite their attempts to appear so. The aliens weren't just infiltrating human society. They were openly operating in secure facilities with human collaboration. Maya began documenting everything she could, with hidden cameras built into her clothing. But she quickly realized that her activities were being monitored. The alien beings seemed to sense her presence in ways that human surveillance couldn't detect, possibly through enhanced senses or technology that could read biological responses like elevated stress levels. One of the alien beings approached her directly, abandoning any pretense of being human. Its appearance was similar to the creatures Maya remembered from the First War, but its movements and behavior suggested greater intelligence and confidence. When it spoke, its voice had an unnaturally perfect accent that made Maya's skin crawl. "Miss Chen, your performance during the internship has been exceptional. We have a special assignment that we believe would suit your unique qualifications." Maya realized that this was the moment when she would either be recruited as a collaborator or eliminated as a threat. She had gathered enough evidence to expose the conspiracy, but only if she could survive long enough to transmit it. The device Marcus had given her felt heavy in her pocket, representing both her last hope and her probable death sentence. The alien continued speaking, its words confirming that her cover had been blown from the beginning. "We know about your military experience during the previous conflict. We know about your contact with other veterans. We know about your intelligence-gathering activities. What you may not know is that we have been watching you specifically because we believe you could be valuable to our cause." Maya's hand moved slowly toward the activation device. knowing that once she triggered it, there would be no going back. The Second War was about to begin, and her actions in the next few minutes would determine whether humanity faced it blind or prepared. The alien smiled with an expression that was almost human, but somehow fundamentally wrong. "We are offering you the opportunity to join the winning side, Miss Chen. Your species' resistance is admirable but ultimately futile. We can offer you survival and a position of authority in the new order we will establish." Maya met the alien's gaze steadily, remembering the friends she had lost in the First War and the innocent students who had no idea what was coming. Her voice was calm when she finally spoke. "I have a counteroffer for you." Maya activated Marcus's device as she spoke, feeling the slight vibration that indicated the data transmission had begun. The alien's enhanced senses immediately detected the electronic activity, and its expression shifted from confident superiority to cold fury. "You have just made a very poor decision. Miss Chen," the alien said, its voice losing any pretense of human inflection, "that transmission will be intercepted and contained long before it reaches anyone who could act on it." Maya smiled grimly. "Maybe, but you underestimate human stubbornness. We have a tendency to keep fighting even when the odds are hopeless." The alien gestured to the human collaborators in the laboratory, who immediately began shutting down equipment and activating what Maya recognized as signal jamming devices. But Marcus had anticipated this response. The device Maya carried wasn't just transmitting to external networks. It was also activating dormant programs that veteran hackers had planted in communication systems across the country. Alarms began sounding throughout the facility as Maya's transmission triggered automatic responses from the veteran intelligence network. Emergency broadcasts began appearing on local television and radio stations, overriding normal programming with warnings about alien infiltration. Social media networks were flooded with evidence and documentation that had been prepared for months but held in reserve for this moment. The alien looked genuinely surprised for the first time, possibly realizing that human resistance capabilities had evolved since the First War. "Impressive," it admitted. "But this changes nothing. Our fleet will arrive within days, not months, as your intelligence suggested. Your warning has come too late to matter." Maya felt her heart sink at this revelation, but she maintained her defiant posture. "Then why go to all the trouble of infiltrating our society? If you're so confident about the outcome, why not just attack directly?" The alien's expression became thoughtful, as if deciding how much to reveal. "Your species surprised us during the first conflict. We expected rapid capitulation but encountered resistance that was unexpectedly effective. This time, we have taken measures to ensure that human unpredictability will not factor into the outcome." Through the laboratory's reinforced windows, Maya could see emergency vehicles arriving at the facility. Her transmission had not only triggered warning broadcasts, but also directed law enforcement and military units to locations where alien activity had been documented. The carefully maintained secrecy of the infiltration was collapsing in real time. The alien began speaking rapidly into a communication device that looked nothing like human technology. Maya couldn't understand the language, but the tone suggested urgent coordination with other alien operatives. Whatever timetable they had been following was now accelerating dramatically. Dr. Chen, who had been standing silently during the confrontation, suddenly spoke up. "The containment protocols aren't working. Local authorities are responding to multiple locations simultaneously. We need to implement the emergency extraction procedures." Maya realized that Dr. Chen had been an alien collaborator from the beginning, possibly since Dr. Park's death. The nervous young scientist persona had been an act designed to lower suspicion while he coordinated the final phases of the infiltration plan. Heavy footsteps echoed in the corridors. Outside the laboratory, as security forces began entering the facility, Maya could hear shouted commands and the sound of doors being breached. Her transmission had worked better than she had dared to hope, bringing not just warnings but immediate response from authorities who apparently weren't entirely compromised. The alien looked at Maya with something that might have been respect. "Your resistance network was more extensive than we detected. Our infiltration focused on military and government institutions, while overlooking the capabilities of independent operators." Maya heard gunfire erupting elsewhere in the building, suggesting that the aliens and their collaborators were not surrendering peacefully. She realized that her actions had triggered the early phases of the Second War, forcing both sides into open conflict sooner than either had planned. "There's something you should know about humans," Maya told the alien as the sounds of fighting grew closer. "We're at our most dangerous when we're cornered and have nothing left to lose." The alien activated additional devices around the laboratory, and Maya felt a strange sensation as the air itself seemed to thicken. She recognized the feeling from the First War, some kind of alien technology that affected human nervous systems, making it difficult to think clearly or coordinate movements. But Maya had experienced this before and knew how to resist it. She had learned during the siege of Detroit that focusing on specific memories and maintaining steady breathing could counteract the worst effects. She forced herself to remember her fallen friends and the promise she had made to never let humanity be caught off guard again. The laboratory door exploded inward as heavily armed soldiers entered, their equipment modified with technologies Maya didn't recognize. They moved with the precision of professional military units, but their gear suggested they had been preparing for exactly this type of encounter. "Miss Chen, we're here to extract you," called the team leader. His voice filtered through a helmet that probably protected against alien neural interference. "Can you move?" Maya nodded, though the alien technology was making her limbs feel heavy and unresponsive. As the soldiers helped her toward the exit, she saw the alien and Dr. Chen activating what looked like an emergency self-destruct system for the laboratory equipment. "They're destroying the evidence," Maya warned the soldiers. "Already? Anticipated," the team leader replied. "We've been monitoring this facility for weeks based on intelligence from your network. Everything important has been documented." As they evacuated the building, Maya could see the scope of the operation that her transmission had triggered. Military vehicles surrounded not just Meridian Dynamics, but dozens of other facilities across the visible horizon. Helicopters circled overhead while fighter jets streaked across the sky. The United States government was conducting simultaneous raids on alien infiltration sites nationwide, but Maya also noticed ominous signs in the sky. Strange atmospheric disturbances were increasing in intensity, and she could see unnatural lights moving among the clouds. The alien fleet was arriving ahead of schedule, possibly summoned by emergency signals from the compromised infiltration teams. In the command vehicle where Maya was taken for debriefing, she met General Patricia Hayes, a veteran officer who had fought in the First War and apparently survived with her command authority intact. The general's first words confirmed Maya's fears about the larger situation. "Miss Chen, your warning came just in time. Our raids have uncovered the scope of alien infiltration, but they've also triggered the early arrival of their main fleet. We estimate first contact within 6 to 12 hours. Maya looked at the tactical displays showing incoming alien ships and defensive preparations around major population centers. "Are we ready this time?" General Hayes smiled grimly. "Better than last time. Thanks to people like you who remembered and prepared. We're not going to be caught completely off guard, but this is going to be the fight of our lives." Through the command vehicle's windows, Maya could see civilians being evacuated from the area, while military units moved into defensive positions. The sight reminded her of the First War's early days, but there were important differences. This time, human forces were moving with purpose and coordination rather than confused panic. This time they had warning. Maya thought about her classmates back at the university, probably just now seeing the emergency broadcasts and trying to understand what was happening. Some of them would survive the coming war, but many would not. The thought filled her with the same rage that had sustained her through the first conflict. The aliens had made a critical error in their planning. They had assumed that because they had defeated humanity's organized military in the First War, they could do so again. They hadn't accounted for the fact that humans could learn, adapt, and prepare. Most importantly, they hadn't understood that the veterans of the First War would never again allow their species to be caught defenseless. As the first alien ships became visible in the darkening sky, Maya felt a familiar mixture of terror and determination. The Second War was beginning, but this time humanity would fight back from the first moment. And this time, they had veterans who remembered exactly how to hurt these creatures when everything else failed. Maya requested permission to rejoin Marcus and her other veteran contacts, knowing that the coming battle would need every experienced fighter humanity could muster. The war she had been preparing for was finally here, and she intended to make sure it ended differently than the last one. Maya reunited with Marcus at a hastily established command center in the university's engineering building. which had been requisitioned by military forces due to its advanced communication equipment and defensible position. The campus that had been her peaceful refuge for 2 years was now transformed into a fortress, with students and faculty working alongside soldiers to prepare defensive positions. The veteran network that had operated in secret for months was now officially integrated into the military command structure. Their intelligence about alien infiltration sites had proven invaluable during the initial raids, and their experience from the First War made them natural leaders for the resistance effort. Maya found herself assigned to a mixed unit of veterans and active military personnel, tasked with defending the university's research facilities that contained technologies the aliens couldn't be allowed to capture. Her engineering knowledge and combat experience made her a valuable asset for understanding how to deny the enemy access to human innovations. The first alien attack came at dawn, just as Maya was helping to set up improvised weapons on the engineering building's roof. Unlike the chaotic first strikes of the previous war, this assault was precise and coordinated. The aliens had learned from their own mistakes, targeting communication networks and transportation hubs to prevent human forces from coordinating their response. But humanity had learned too. Emergency communication protocols developed by veteran networks kept information flowing, even as primary systems went down. Cached weapons and supplies that had been hidden for years were retrieved from concealment. Most importantly, the psychological shock that had paralyzed human resistance in the First War was absent. People knew what they were fighting and why. Maya's unit engaged the first wave of alien ground forces in the university's main quad, where students had been playing frisbee just days earlier. The aliens moved with the same terrifying efficiency she remembered, but human tactics had evolved significantly. Instead of trying to match alien technology directly, the defenders used the environment to their advantage, turning familiar campus buildings into killing zones. The aliens quickly realized that this engagement was different from their previous experience with human resistance. These defenders knew their capabilities and limitations, using weapons and tactics specifically designed to exploit alien weaknesses discovered during the First War. Maya smiled grimly as she watched alien troops retreating from positions they should have been able to hold easily. During a brief lull in the fighting, Maya received an urgent message from General Hayes. Intelligence gathered from captured alien equipment suggested that the invasion force had been reduced from their original planning, possibly due to losses suffered during the hasty acceleration of their timeline. The aliens were still formidable, but they no longer possessed overwhelming numerical superiority. More encouraging was news from other battle zones around the globe. The Veteran Intelligence Network had proven to be an international phenomenon, with former resistance fighters in dozens of countries organizing similar warning and preparation efforts. The alien strategy of global simultaneous assault was meeting coordinated resistance on every continent. Maya's communication device crackled with reports from Marcus, who was coordinating defense efforts across the metropolitan area. Maya, we're seeing something we didn't expect. Civilian populations are organizing spontaneously instead of panicking. People remember the First War. Even if they weren't fighters, they know what happens to collaborators and they're choosing to resist. This was perhaps the aliens' greatest miscalculation. They had planned their infiltration strategy around the assumption that human societies would collapse under pressure, as they had before. Instead, they encountered populations that had been psychologically prepared for this moment. Communities that had developed contingency plans and mutual support networks. The battle for the university campus continued for 3 days, with Maya's unit holding strategic positions while larger forces maneuvered around the city. The aliens threw increasingly desperate attacks at defended positions, suggesting that their initial objectives were not being met. Human resistance was proving more effective than their intelligence had predicted. On the 4th day, Maya witnessed something that filled her with hope and terror in equal measure. A massive alien ship, one of their primary command vessels, was brought down by coordinated human fighter attacks. The ship crashed in the downtown area, creating a mushroom cloud visible from the campus. But more importantly, it demonstrated that alien technology was not invincible when faced with prepared and determined human forces. The psychological impact of the downed command ship rippled through both sides of the conflict. Human morale soared as people realized that victory was possible, while alien forces began showing signs of uncertainty and caution that had been absent from their previous invasion attempt. Maya's unit was reassigned to investigate the crash site, both to gather intelligence and to prevent alien forces from recovering sensitive equipment. Moving through the city, Maya was amazed by the transformation in human behavior. Instead of fleeing in panic, civilians were organizing neighborhood defense groups and supporting military operations with supplies and information. The crash site revealed the sophistication of alien technology, but also its vulnerabilities. Maya's engineering background allowed her to understand how their systems functioned and where they could be disrupted. She documented everything she could, knowing that this information would be crucial for developing more effective countermeasures. Inside the downed command ship, Maya made a discovery that changed her understanding of the entire conflict. The vessel's data systems contained detailed information about alien civilization and their reasons for targeting Earth. What she learned filled her with both rage and determination. The Orcs.
Aliens hadn't invaded Earth for resources or territory.
They were fleeing from something even more dangerous, a threat that had devastated their home systems and forced them to seek new worlds to colonize. Earth represented not just a conquest, but their species' only hope for survival. They would fight with desperation because they literally had nowhere else to go. But the data also revealed critical intelligence about alien capabilities and limitations. Their fleet was smaller than estimated because most of their resources had been lost to whatever force had driven them from their homeworld. They had accelerated their invasion timeline, not just because of human resistance, but because they were running out of time and supplies. Maya transmitted this intelligence to General Hayes and Marcus, knowing it would reshape human strategy for the remainder of the war. If the aliens were fighting for survival, they wouldn't retreat or negotiate. But if their resources were limited, human endurance might ultimately prove decisive. The discovery also explained why the aliens had attempted such extensive infiltration efforts. They needed to secure Earth quickly and with minimal damage to infrastructure, since they planned to live here permanently. Their carefully prepared invasion had been designed to minimize destruction of the planet they intended to inhabit. As Maya's unit prepared to leave the crash site, alien reinforcements arrived to contest control of the wreckage. The ensuing battle was fierce but brief, with human forces withdrawing after gathering the most critical intelligence. Maya realized that the aliens were becoming increasingly aggressive as their situation deteriorated. Returning to the university command center, Maya found Marcus coordinating with veteran networks worldwide. The news was encouraging. Human resistance was holding or advancing on multiple fronts. Alien supply lines were being disrupted, and civilian populations were proving remarkably resilient. But Maya also learned that the aliens were preparing desperate measures. Intelligence suggested they were readying weapons of mass destruction, possibly planning to render large areas of Earth uninhabitable if they couldn't secure them intact. The war was entering its most dangerous phase, where an enemy facing defeat might choose to destroy what they couldn't possess. Maya looked out at the campus where she had tried to live a normal life, now scarred by battle but still standing. Students and professors worked alongside soldiers to repair damaged defenses and prepare for the next assault. These people had found their courage not in spite of their fear but because of it, choosing to fight for their world despite knowing the terrible cost. The Second War was far from over, but Maya could see that it would end differently than the first. Humanity had learned not just how to fight these invaders, but how to endure and adapt. The aliens might be desperate, but humans had discovered something equally powerful: the determination of a species that refused to surrender its home. As alien ships gathered on the horizon for what would clearly be a massive final assault, Maya prepared her weapons and checked her equipment. The next battle would determine whether Earth remained humanity's world or became an alien refuge. Either way, Maya intended to make sure the invaders paid dearly for every mile of ground they claimed. The final battle began at sunrise on the 7th day of the war, when the entire alien fleet descended toward Earth's surface in a coordinated assault that blocked out the morning sun. Maya watched from the university's observatory as hundreds of alien ships formed attack formations above major population centers, preparing for what was clearly their last desperate attempt to secure the planet. But humanity was ready. The veteran networks had spent the previous week coordinating with military forces to implement strategies that had been developed over years of secret planning. Every major city had been turned into a fortress, Every strategic location was defended by people who understood exactly what they were fighting for. Maya's unit was positioned at the university's central campus, which the aliens had identified as a priority target due to its research facilities and communication equipment. As the alien ships began their descent, Maya felt the familiar mixture of terror and determination that had sustained her through the First War. But this time she was not a frightened teenager following orders. She was an experienced fighter leading others who trusted her judgment. The first wave of alien troops landed in the university's main quad at precisely 0800 hours, emerging from dropships that had seemed almost unstoppable during the previous invasion. But the defenders were ready with weapons and tactics specifically designed to exploit alien weaknesses that Maya and other veterans had documented over the years. The battle was intense but brief. Human forces used the campus buildings as prepared killing zones, funneling alien troops into areas where they could be engaged with maximum effectiveness. Maya's engineering knowledge proved crucial, as she directed her unit in using the university's infrastructure against the invaders. But the real turning point came when Maya noticed something that filled her with hope. The alien troops were fighting differently than they had 5 years earlier. Their movements were more cautious, their tactics more conservative. They were no longer the supremely confident invaders who had once seemed invincible. They were desperate refugees fighting for survival, and that desperation was making them vulnerable. Throughout the morning, reports flowed in from other battle zones around the globe. Human resistance was holding everywhere, and in some locations alien forces were actually retreating. The psychological impact of sustained human resistance was taking its toll on an enemy that had expected quick victory. Maya's communication device crackled with an urgent message from General Hayes. All units, we've detected massive energy buildups from the alien fleet. Intelligence suggests they're preparing to deploy weapons of mass destruction against population centers they can't capture intact. The news confirmed Maya's worst fears about alien desperation. If they couldn't secure Earth as a new home, they might choose to render it uninhabitable rather than leave it for humanity. The final phase of the war would be a race to stop the aliens, before they could implement their ultimate weapon. Maya's unit was reassigned to assault one of the alien ground bases where intelligence suggested a control center for the orbital weapons systems was located. Moving through the city streets, Maya was amazed by the transformation in human society. Civilians had organized into support networks that provided intelligence, supplies, and medical care for the military forces. The entire species had mobilized for survival. The assault on the alien base was the most difficult combat Maya had ever experienced. The aliens fought with the fury of a species facing extinction, using weapons and tactics that pushed human defenders to their absolute limits. But Maya's unit prevailed through superior knowledge of the terrain and tactics developed specifically for fighting this enemy. Inside the alien base, Maya found technology that exceeded anything she had seen before. The control systems for the orbital weapons were incredibly sophisticated, but her engineering background allowed her to understand their basic principles. More importantly, she realized that the aliens had built a critical vulnerability into their own systems. The orbital weapons required constant communication with ground-based control centers to maintain their targeting accuracy. If those communication links could be disrupted, the weapons would be unable to fire effectively. Maya began working frantically to sabotage the control systems while her unit held off alien reinforcements. As she worked, Maya heard Marcus's voice on the communication network, coordinating similar assaults on alien bases around the world. Veteran networks that had operated in secret were now leading the most critical missions of the war, using knowledge and skills that no one else possessed. Maya succeeded in disabling the control center's communication systems, just as massive energy discharges lit up the sky overhead. The alien orbital weapons were firing, but without proper targeting coordination, their shots went wide of populated areas. What should have been humanity's destruction became merely a terrifying fireworks display. The failure of the orbital weapons marked the beginning of the end for the alien invasion. Reports flooded in from around the globe of alien forces surrendering or attempting to retreat. Their desperation gambit had failed, and they no longer possessed the resources for sustained combat. But Maya knew the war wasn't truly over until the alien fleet was completely neutralized. Working with surviving members of her veteran network, She helped coordinate the final assaults on alien ships that were attempting to escape Earth's atmosphere. Human fighter squadrons, supported by ground-based weapons, systematically destroyed or captured the remaining alien vessels. The last alien ship was brought down 3 days later, crashing into the ocean where it could be recovered for study. Maya watched the impact from the university campus, feeling a mixture of relief and exhaustion that was almost overwhelming. The Second War was finally over, and humanity had won decisively. In the aftermath of victory, Maya found herself attending ceremonies and briefings where the veteran network's contributions were officially recognized. But the most meaningful moment came when she stood again in the university's main quad, watching students and faculty return to rebuild what had been damaged during the fighting. Her roommate approached her with tears in her eyes, having finally learned the truth about Maya's past and her role in preparing for the invasion. "I had no idea what you'd been through," she said. "No idea what you were doing to protect us." Maya smiled, feeling lighter than she had in years. "That was the point. You gotta be normal college students because some of us stayed ready for war." The reconstruction efforts revealed the full scope of the alien infiltration that Maya and her network had helped expose. Dozens of companies and government agencies had been compromised, and thousands of human collaborators were arrested. But the early warning had prevented the aliens from completely dismantling human defenses as they had planned. Maya decided to continue her engineering studies, but with a new focus on developing defensive technologies that would prevent any future alien infiltration. She also began working with General Hayes to establish a permanent monitoring system that would watch for signs of new threats, ensuring that humanity would never again be caught off guard. Marcus took a position with the new Earth Defense Coalition, using his security expertise to help design protocols for detecting and countering alien infiltration attempts. The Veteran Network evolved into an official organization, tasked with maintaining the institutional memory of both wars. Most importantly, Maya began teaching courses on threat recognition and resistance tactics, ensuring that future generations would understand the signs of infiltration and know how to respond. The knowledge that had been hard-won through combat experience would be passed on to people who, hopefully, would never need to use it. Standing in her old physics classroom a year after the war's end, Maya looked out at students who were learning the same principles she had once used to survive. But these students lived in a world that was more vigilant and better prepared, a world where veterans like Maya had ensured that the lessons of war would not be forgotten. The aliens had been right about one thing: humans were unpredictable. They had not anticipated that their former enemies would remember, prepare, and ultimately prove that experience and determination could overcome technological superiority. They had underestimated the most dangerous human characteristic of all: the refusal to give up. Maya smiled as she began her lecture on energy systems engineering, knowing that somewhere among her students might be the people who would protect humanity from the next threat, whatever form it might take. The war was over, but the vigilance would continue forever. That was the price of freedom, and Maya was proud to help pay it.